Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
If you've ever dreamt of, building something totally new, a company, a product, then understanding your market, figuring out where your unique opportunity lies, well, that's absolutely fundamental.
It really is. And today we're digging into some powerful insights specifically on that, drawn from excerpts of Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1. It's pretty provocative stuff.
Yeah, it definitely challenges the usual playbook. This isn't about just finding a gap or competing a bit better.
No, not at all. Thiel argues that real progress, the kind that actually changes things, isn't about copying and improving slightly. He calls that going from 1 to n. Globalization, basically. Incremental stuff.
Right, just replicating. He's focused on creating something brand new. That's the 0 to 1 leap. Technology, in his broader sense.
Exactly.
And our mission here, really, for you listening, especially if you're mulling over that startup idea, is to pull out the core methods and, stories from his perspective. How do you actually find that 0 to 1 spot? How do you think differently about identifying your market and, importantly, reaching them?
Because the book argues startups are kind of uniquely suited for this 0 to 1 creation. They're nimble, they can get a small group intensely focused, unlike big corporations maybe.
Or just one person alone?
Right. But the million-dollar question is, how do you spot what needs building if it, doesn't exist yet? And then how do you connect it to people? That's what we need to unpack.
Okay, let's get into it. Thiel kicks off with this really challenging question, apparently uses it in interviews. What important truth do very few people agree with you on?
And what's so interesting there is how it immediately flips market research on its head. You're not looking for consensus. You're not, polling people about needs they already know they have.
No.
You're hunting for a hidden insight, something about how the world works or what people really want that's unpopular or just unseen.
And he makes a good point about why it's hard. School trains us to repeat what's agreed upon, right? Saying something true but unpopular.
Yeah.
That takes courage. He thinks courage is rarer than genius, actually.
So applying that to your potential startup, the question becomes something like, what valuable company is nobody building? It forces you to look past the existing landscape.
To imagine a market that should be there.
Exactly. But then there's this crucial twist, so important for anyone starting out. It's not just about creating value.
Ah, yes, the airline example.
Right. Airlines create huge value, moving millions of people, but their profit margins, often terrible. Then you look at Google. In a year, he cites maybe less total value created in some abstract sense, but they captured a massive chunk as profit.
And Google's value now just dwarfs all the U.S. airlines combined.
So what that tells you as a founder looking for a market is it's not enough to find a need. You have to find a need within a structure, a market structure, where you can actually capture some of that value you create. Otherwise,
you don't have a business, no matter how useful your product is.
which leads right into his next point, which feels totally backward at first. Actively avoid competition.
Yeah, this is a big one. Business schools teach you to analyze competitors, fight for market share. Standard stuff.
But Thiel says competition is, fundamentally destructive. He uses that Shakespeare analogy, the Montagues and Capulets fight, because they're basically the same. Companies locked in competition get obsessed with their rivals.
They lose sight of what actually matters, like the customer or the product itself. You see it all the time. Microsoft versus Google in the browser wars, just copying features back and forth.
Exactly. That kind of imitative competition leads to these foolish battles over often really minor differences. Remember the dot-com bubble, the pets.com wars.
Oh, yeah.
Companies bringing cash trying to destroy rivals, selling pet food online without maybe stopping to ask if selling pet food online was even a great business model back then. Winning the battle meant nothing if everyone lost the war.
He tells that story about PayPal and Elon Musk's X.com, too. Fierce rivals. Practically identical products, offices blocks apart.
Total dogfight. But then the tech bubble starts bursting, and they realize the real threat isn't each other, it's the whole market collapsing. Merging was the only rational move to survive.
So the takeaway for your market research might be, instead of asking, how do I compete here? Maybe ask, is this market just defined by brutal competition?
Right. Because if it is, maybe that's not a sign of opportunity. Maybe it's a sign, as Thiel puts it, of a collective hallucination where profits are competed away. Competition is something to escape, not embrace.
Okay, so escape competition towards what? The goal is building a monopoly. But he means like the good kind.
Yeah, and this definitely needs clarification because monopoly usually sounds bad. He defines it simply as a company that's so good at what it does, there's no close substitute. Google search is his prime example. For years, they just had a vastly better product.
That's the monopoly he means, not an illegal bully.
Exactly. And his argument for why this kind is good, unlike companies in perfect competition just scraping by, these monopolists have breathing room. They can afford to think long term.
They can invest in R&D,
Yeah.
treat employees well, improve the product, even consider their wider impact. Money isn't the only thing.
Right. It enables other goals. And crucially, the value of a business like this isn't just today's profit. It's all the cash flow it's expected to generate way out into the future. That future value, discounted back, is the real number.
Which explains why so many tech companies look like they're losing money early on, or have these seemingly crazy valuations. It's not about now, it's about the potential for those durable future monopoly profits, maybe 10, 15 years out.
Yeah, he uses PayPal, LinkedIn as examples where the valuation was based on that expected durability, not just current growth.
Okay, so how do you build that? An enduring, good monopoly. He lays out 4 key characteristics. If you're thinking about your idea, these are worth asking.
First, proprietary technology. Your tech has to be genuinely significantly better, like 10 times better than the next best thing, not just a slight improvement.
So Google's search algorithms back then, maybe Amazon's early logistics tech, the first iPad compared to what came before, stuff that's hard to copy.
Exactly, hard to replicate. Second, network effects. The product gets more valuable as more people use it. Facebook is the classic, but he stresses you have to start small to get this going.
Paradoxically small, right? Like
Yeah.
Harvard initially for Facebook, you need density in a niche.
Precisely. Dominate a small pond first. Third, economies of scale. The business itself should get stronger as it gets bigger. Fixed costs get spread out. Software is great for this near zero cost to add another user.
Makes sense. And the fourth.
Branding. But, and this is key, build the substance first, then build the brand around that actual value. A strong brand reinforces the monopoly, sure, but branding alone without the substance, it's empty.
He contrasts Yahoo trying to be cool versus Apple building amazing products and letting the brand follow that.
Right. Build it, then brand it.
So applying this to finding your market, it really reinforces that idea of starting small and scaling intelligently.
Totally. Don't wade into a giant, bloody, competitive ocean. Find a small niche, a specific group of customers you can completely dominate. Then expand outwards from that stronghold.
Like Amazon going from books to CDs to videos outwards. Their name even hinted at that scale eventually.
Exactly. Create your own market where you're the leader. Don't just fight for scraps in someone else's.
Okay, another angle on finding opportunity he talks about is looking for secrets. This connects back to that unpopular truth idea.
Yeah, secrets are important truths that few people see or agree on. They might be hidden just because they're overlooked, or sometimes because they're kind of forbidden or taboo to talk about.
He argues great companies are often built on these secrets hiding in plain sight. Things about how the world works or what people really want.
Think about Airbnb or Uberlyft before they existed. It seems obvious now, but back then, hotels cost a lot, yet tons of spare rooms sat empty. People needed rides, tons of cars sat idle.
They saw that mismatch, untapped supply, unmet demand that convention just didn't see.
Because people were stuck in the old ways of thinking about hotels and taxis. He also mentions looking for human secrets, asking, what are people not really allowed to talk about?
Like his idea that competition and capitalism are kind of opposites. Monopolists pretend they aren't dominant. Competitive firms pretend they're unique. That's an insight into behavior.
Yeah. So finding these secrets is it's unconventional market research, looking beyond the obvious data, asking weird questions, challenging assumptions about your customers or the market itself.
Okay, so you found your secret, your insight, you built this unique thing. Now you got to get it to people. Distribution. He really hammers this point.
Oh, absolutely. He
Yeah.
basically says the engineer's dream, build a great product and they will come, is a lie, flat out. Sales matters just as much as product.
That's a big statement.
It is. But his point is, a brilliant invention with no way to sell it, that's just a bad business. Distribution isn't something you tack on later. It has to be baked into your thinking from the start, part of your market strategy.
And he says distribution follows a power law too, meaning one method will likely be way more effective for your business than all the others combined.
Right. So that kitchen sink approach, trying a bit of advertising, a bit of sales, a bit of partnerships, it usually fails because you don't master anything. You dilute your effort.
And this is critical for founders planning market entry. He claims most businesses fail because of poor sales, not a bad product.
It's a sobering thought. If you can figure out and master one key distribution channel that works for you, you've got a shot at a great business. If you try a bunch and none really take off, you're probably done.
So understanding the different types matters. He breaks it down roughly by deal size, right?
Yeah. There's complex sales for the huge deals, millions of dollars. Think SpaceX selling to NASA takes intense personal effort over a long time. Then
Okay.
personal sales, maybe in the 10K to 100K range, managed by a sales team, relationship building, like box selling cloud storage, maybe starting small in one department and expanding. Sometimes the product helps, like ZocDoc, more doctors, makes it better for other doctors to join.
Got it. And then for cheaper stuff.
Marketing and advertising. For low-priced, mass-market products where you need really low customer acquisition costs. Detergent, glasses like Warby Parker, you need a big megaphone. But he warns startups don't try to outspend big companies on ads early on.
Right. Wait until you have those monopoly profits, maybe.
Heh.
He mentions that failed PayPal ad versus Priceline using William Shatner after they were big.
Exactly. So that power law thing means you need to figure out, is it complex sales for us? Personal sales? Marketing? Maybe viral growth, though he doesn't detail the how-to there much beyond mentioning PayPal's referral program. You got to find your one channel and own it. That's market execution.
It's not just the idea, it's getting it out there. Makes sense. Okay, beyond product and distribution, he also really stresses getting the foundations right. Early decisions.
Huge emphasis on this. Bad calls early on, especially about people, almost impossible to fix later.
Choosing a co-founder? He says it's like getting married. And founder conflict. Lethal. An autoimmune disease for the startup.
Yeah, you need great people, sure, but also structure. Alignment for the long haul. Can't just rely on everyone being nice. He even mentions keeping early CEO salaries relatively low, like under 150K for VC-backed ones.
Sets a standard, focuses everyone on building future value, cites Aaron Levy at Box living super frugally early on.
And equity becomes key then, orienting people to create that future value. It's tricky to allocate, but essential to attract people who are truly committed long-term.
In culture.
Right?
It's not about ping pong tables.
No, it's about the team being on a shared mission, a tribe almost. Hire people who are talented, yes, but also who genuinely seem to like working together on that specific mission.
He contrasts the PayPal mafia camaraderie with maybe thinner relationships at, say, a big law firm. And defining roles, clearly one unique responsibility per person, helps minimize that internal conflict, which just drains energy.
The team should be, as he puts it, different in the same way, united by the mission, like the early Silicon Valley hoodie uniform signaling you were part of that tribe.
It really grounds it. Building a company is deeply human, right from day one. Who you choose, how you structure things.
And that leads to a final big idea. Controlling your destiny. Being definite, not indefinite, about the future.
Explain that difference, definite versus indefinite.
Well, you can approach the future believing you can actually plan for it and shape it, that's definite. Or you can treat it as basically random, unpredictable, so you just try to keep options open, diversify. That's indefinite. Like how our education system often pushes people towards broad, safe paths.
Okay. And Thiel argues for.
Definite optimism. Believing the future can be better, but only if you actively plan and work to make it so. Indefinite approaches, even optimistic ones where you just hope things get better somehow. They don't work for building something radically new. Planning is crucial.
He feels planning is undervalued today.
Very much so. In a world focused on short-term reaction, a startup, he argues, is maybe the biggest thing you could have definite mastery over. You're not just playing the lottery.
You are not a lottery ticket. I like that. Your success, if it comes, is down to your plan and execution.
And he uses Tesla as a great example of this. A company that was definitely optimistic, planned meticulously, and got a lot right, including understanding secrets and aiming for that durable monopoly.
Their success wasn't just luck. It was hitting those 7 key questions he poses. Technology, timing, monopoly, people, distribution, durability, and secrets.
And that secret for Tesla was pretty insightful, right? Understanding early on that clean tech wasn't just about being green, it was also social, even fashion.
Right. They built a brand around high-performance cars that made drivers look cool, appealing to people who wanted to seem green, but also just wanted an amazing car.
Yeah.
Totally sidestepped the image of earlier electric cars.
And their distribution selling direct, creating their own stores, that was a very definite, specific plan to reach their target customer, bypassing traditional dealers. Very planned, very deliberate.
Okay, so let's try to wrap up this deep dive into 0 to 1. For anyone listening who's thinking about that startup journey, It really is a call to rethink how you even look at markets and opportunity.
Absolutely. It's about hunting for that unique, maybe unpopular truth. Escaping the competition trap by building a genuine good monopoly, starting in a niche you can own.
Focusing hard on long-term durability through that 10x tech, network effects, scale, real substance behind the brand.
Uncovering secrets about how things really work or what people truly desire. Mastering that one critical distribution channel, getting the foundations, the people, the structure, the culture right from the very beginning.
And, crucially, having that definite plan. Believing you can shape the future, not just react to it. Not being a lottery ticket.
Yeah, the book fundamentally challenges you to look past the conventional wisdom, question everything, find value where others don't see it. It's really arguing against treating the future as random chance.
So thinking about all that, the unpopular truths, the secrets, escaping competition, building something definite, maybe the question to leave you with is this. In a world saturated with information, with so many people chasing the same things, copying each other, what specific unpopular truth about your potential market or your customers are you willing to bet on and build upon? Even if, maybe especially if, everyone else thinks it sounds kind of crazy.